right, what is up, sports fans? We are back for another episode of The Real and the Rare, and I'm being joined tonight by BKFC fighter, Mr. Jake Heffernan. Jake, how are we feeling this evening, my friend? Happy Father's Day.
Hey, man, happy Father's Day. Feeling good. Just getting ready for fight week. It starts tomorrow, so we're in it.
Into the nitty gritty. Father's Day is here. Obviously, we're both father of children. So, how'd you wind up spending your day? Did you just spend it with the wife and kids? How'd you wind up doing it?
I'm actually a single father, so it was just me and the kids this Father's Day, and we just hung out. Woke up. I have a girlfriend, so that she got everything ready for me. Had a real big surprise this morning, lined up for me. She stayed up till she didn't get home till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then she stayed up till 7 setting everything up. So I have the luxury of having a person in my life now that really puts the effort forward. And then this morning, I actually went to work, did a little jujitsu for about an hour, and then came back home and hung out with the kids, went out to lunch, and then I honestly just been doing the best thing to do on Father's Day, which is nothing.
I hear you. I mean, single dad here too, but like you, I have someone in my life who makes sure everything's taken care of, all the I's dotted, T's crossed. Made sure my son had a little something to give me. Daughter gave me a message today. She's down the shore hanging out with her friends, doing what she likes to do. So, yeah, just like wasn't too lazy. Had to run to the store, grab a few things, do some laundry, stuff like that. But nothing too crazy. So, yeah, good Father's Day. Anyone who's celebrating and enjoying the day. Hopefully you had a good one. And speaking of good one, man, it was another wild combat sports weekend. You had UFC last night. You had BKFC, both BKFC Iced debut and BKFC Mohegan Sun. What is it like, man, to be fighting for a promotion that is growing this exponentially, man? It's I've been saying it for a few years. I know, like, obviously BKFC isn't MMA, isn't UFC, but I do think that we are in an even market now, if so to speak. If UFC used to rule everything. If anything was on Saturday night, it was on combat sports wise. 9 times out of 10, the people trying to tune in were all going to the UFC. I would have to say over the last 5 years or so, that ain't been the case. BKFC is kind of and bare knuckle as a whole has kind of put their stamp on it. Hell, even you had Dirty Boxing last night. That was a good event. What are your thoughts on that, brother? Lost Jake there for a second, so I guess let's go over a few of those things. Obviously, Mike Perry's Dirty Boxing was also last night. You also had here in Philadelphia, Damon Feldman had his celebrity boxing. That was also going on there. So it was another crazy night of fights. It was one of those things where, like I said, it's you have BKFC, you got all that stuff going on, and having all that in one weekend on the 14th, it was just a fun, crazy night of combat sports events, and we'll get Jake back on here in a second. Here he comes. Technology wins again. Technology wins again.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Listen, I'm used to it, brother. I've been doing this long enough. I know sometimes internet was like just kicks you off.
Yeah.
So, but like I was saying, the combat sports world has changed, man. We were talking about before you got on air that the way we consume things and things of that nature is in a totally different space. But I definitely feel BKFC has in 7-8 years that they've been around, has more than bridged the gap on what people think you should be doing on a given combat sports event weekend. You got Conor McGregor as one of the promoters there. I already said like we had a big weekend this weekend for BKFC, both with the BKFC Ice and the Mohegan Sun. You're going to be on the card next weekend in Texas, and that's going to be a huge card. I mean, you guys got a list full of characters on that one. How excited are you for that, man?
Man, honestly, one, it'll be really cool to meet Andre Arlovsky. I'm really excited for that. I hope we end up being in the same corner. It's like, honestly,
Just so you can BS with them in the locker room, right?
yeah, exactly, man. Just to be around one of the legends of the sport, that'll be really cool. I know Jessica I is also going to be.
Yeah, she's another one, man. I've been interviewing her since she was like early day Bellator stuff before UFC even had a women's division or anything like that. She's one of those ones. I was surprised when she was retired. I had her on here beforehand. The stuff that she went through just to get back in the physical condition that she is now, it was crazy. I don't know if you heard, like she had a parasite that was basically taking everything from her, like from her nutrients to everything. She was basically fighting as a half a person the last 2.5 years that she was in the UFC. Now she was pseudo retired for the last few, and now getting back in there. Let me pull that up because I did put that in the bag. It's still in the back end here. She's gonna be making her debut.
Yeah,
Flyweight fight. It's that's a big one. You were already talking about Arlovsky. Him and Copeland are going to be going at it. That should be a fun fight. Obviously, you got some skin in the game there, wanting to meet them. But I still think outside of your fight, now we're going to get to yours in a second. I got to talk about this one because we got boxing royalty on the card, man. We got Kinsey Morrison, Tommy Morrison's son is going to be fighting. Uh, Listen, they don't do it no bigger than Texas, right? So I guess BKFC literally went all in putting this event together, man.
yeah. Honestly, man, they really. I'm so excited to be on the very first card for BKFC Texas. Again, like you said, they really do go big. They do show after show after show to keep in competition, and they've really become like the number two under the UFC. And then who knows, like soon enough, maybe bigger than the UFC with the most exciting fights, in my
I
opinion.
mean, here's the thing. Like, can you name someone that's doing more, not just in the United States, but internationally as well?
No, I
What
can't. That's
BKFC is doing. Like, I'm not sitting there trying to take anything away from what any other promotion is already that their home is international stuff. Like, what you can't take away what one's been doing and what they have been doing over the last 5 to 10 years, regardless. But the scale of what they're doing, that we were just in Italy, we were just in Dubai. What BKFC has done in the small amount of time that they've been doing it, it's reminiscent to the mid to end of the Zuffa era, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, man. Honestly, and I think the UFC is great. I think they do a really good job. I've been in the corner for Alex Morono and Ricky Tercio, so I've been in the backstage. I know how the production value works. I've been to the ceremonial, after the weigh-ins, the media days. I've been in the backstage a lot, so I will tell you it'll be exciting to get backstage for BKFC just to see how they do it. But that is a high production value from the UFC, and to see another sport that's not quite MMA, but I mean we're getting all the legends of MMA. You get all the guys that
Mhm.
are like, hey, I don't have it in me anymore to get picked up and slammed and choked and kneed and elbowed, but they're like, but boxing seems like I can get into that. And then beyond that is it's the bare knuckle factor. Nobody in the world, you know, sees a bare knuckle fight and is like, I got to get out of here. I don't want to watch this. Like, no matter what, it's like a train wreck. You got to watch it, and it's one of those. It's exciting. It's 120 seconds of chaos per round, and people want to see that. And David Feldman's done a really good job of just getting not only really good fights booked with Nate Shook, but then also making sure he's going all over the country now, all over the world, just getting these shows out to get the popularity down. And again, it was illegal to do BK in Texas for a long time, and they just got it sanctioned a couple months ago. And I know the TDLR really well, so they kind of whispered in my ear during a couple of local MMA shows that they might be doing one in Texas. And I got with my manager, and I was like, man, I've heard some talk, some chatter on a Texas card, and he was like, man, there's going to be a Texas card, so if you want to get on it, just let me know. and I've been looking for a matchup. I got signed back in November, so it's exciting to be again a part of that first one. I hope I see Conor McGregor. It'd be cool.
I mean, in
We
Texas, man, he was I was lucky enough to be able to cover the Knucklemania here in Philadelphia. Well,
Yeah.
I'm friends with the BKFC News and Susan Cigari. Last minute she couldn't make it. Was like, Steve, can you help my guys out? I was like, yeah, I got you. So went down there, helped her cover that. And I got to see like some of that backstage. Listen, I may have never gotten UFC credentials, but I think it was it was as top of the line as you can get. My kids had an awesome night. And like you're sitting there saying, the first one in Texas should be one. And I gotta ask you, obviously, you got some love for Texas. When we talk about the sanctioning bodies and things of that nature and the stuff that goes into it, Texas gets a lot of hate, man. They do get a lot of hate. You've had some controversial judging, some controversial suspension stuff happen. We talk about this all the time. I was talking about it to Lauren Murphy, like stuff that we would like to see changed as we continue to grow combat sports. One thing she was talking about is just she wants the some of these idiot nutritionists to get out of here, because I think the most dangerous thing that you fighters have to deal with is rapid extreme weight cutting. I think that we need to do a different process of how you guys weigh in. Maybe have you make the weight at a certain amount of time before the fight, and no matter what, give you guys a few days to let your body recover, because some of you guys do push the limits. I remember you're talking Andre Arlovsky. I remember when I was covering World Series of Fighting, and Stephen Carl was their welterweight champion. He was telling me he was cutting 25 to 35 pounds to make that 170-pound limit. These are things that we like. It might be good in the moment, but as an overall health thing, as an overall performance thing, rapid extreme weight cutting, in my opinion, is one of the things I want to do away with. And I think we need to talk to you guys, the athletes, as as like, say, if I'm a commission member in some way. Do you think we should change that day before weigh in and move it a few days, like keep it fight week? I'm not sitting there saying like let's do it when you guys call and make the fight that you guys weigh in, and then you could do, as long as you're within X amount of percentage beforehand, to kind of keep it in the thing. Because the only other thing to do is sitting there, we need more weight classes, and we could sit there and talk about that till we're blue in the face. But I
Yeah.
think that this is something that we can kind of help you guys out so you guys can ultimately be healthier, fight better, and have better performances when you guys get in there.
Yeah, honestly, I think the best way to do that would be kind of like I've talked to somebody who actually has fought for ONE FC, and it was a female. Her name's B Win, and she basically had told me the way that she
I
did it, the
remember
way
B.
she does it is they, check-ins where they have to check in like once a week, and then they have to be, I think, within 5 pounds of their weight class, and then I don't know exactly how it goes nowadays, but I think that would be one of the best ways, is just have everyone within a certain weight allowance of the weight class that they're going to be doing. I think 10 pounds is not a hard cut on the body, because, I have a nutritionist. My nutritionist works for the UFC PI. I didn't use him for this camp because I've used him for so long. I pretty much have the memorization of the diet plan, and then the cut protocol. But the way that we do it is we flush. So like starting tomorrow, no salt, no carbs. And then I'm just doing 2 gallons of water a day. That 2 gallons it sends your body into a hormonal response, which makes you start to like flush out all the things you don't need. I'll lose like 7 pounds from Monday to Thursday. I'll lose like 7 pounds. And then currently right now, like yesterday after my workout, I was 11 pounds out. So it's like, right there, flush 7 from that point, do a workout tomorrow morning, get right back to where I was, 167, and then flush the weight from there, drink the 2 gallons of water a day. You're cutting your protein down, you're cutting your carbs out, you do little bits of fat, you do little bits of fruit for, natural sugars, and then, again, you do that process of the flushing, and then you get down that 7 pounds, and then you got like fucking 6, 7 pounds to cut. So it's not a hard process. It's just you got to get guys that aren't gonna kind of play the system. And I do know guys that are like, man, I'm making a 25-pound cut in the next week, and I'm like, man, I don't know why you do that to yourself. Like I used to fight at 145 pounds. And as a younger man, I remember in the beginning, it's like I want to be able to get as big as I can than my opponent when I go to rehydrate. That was like the whole thought process behind that. But then now, as a 35, 36-year-old man, I'm like, I don't want to cut weight at all. I would rather just fight at what I walk around at. But I just need there has to be an understanding that pound per inch, of punching power needs to be understood. So I'm not going to fight a guy that did cut weight to make the weight class, and then I weigh let's say we do the weight at 160. I weigh 160 and my opponent cuts to 160, and then we go fight and he's weighing 180, 175. And that's like, that doesn't make any sense, man.
I
That's
mean,
for the
I
fight.
think some of the bigger examples now, like we just seen her fought last weekend, is Kayla Harrison. She walks around closer to 170 pounds, and she just fought at 135 pounds, and you could see the difference from where she weighed. Where as we were just talking about some ceremonial weigh-ins and all that, you could see the difference from when she weighed in on officially on the scale, and that afternoon she was completely sunken in, and then you go see her afterwards, and she's glowing, she's bouncing around and all that. Like, that's not a sustainable thing. And I know a lot of fans are like, oh well, they just need to bring back another division. Yeah, we can have that argument all day long, and there's a lot of 145-pound women, even lightweight, even 155-pound divisions for female, but it's one of those things where there's not enough top level athletes for the UFC to kind of warrant that, so that's why they did away with 45. So this is where she can fight at. She wants to fight the best people in the world. She's about to, as the rumors goes, I'm going to pull this one up here since we're talking about Kayla. Is she's about to get in there with Kayla Harrison, and our favorite manager of the stars, Ali, is basically saying that Kayla's gonna make Amanda Nunes quit. Amanda Nunes is arguably the goat of women's mixed martial arts. Like
Yeah,
we
that's
can
not.
we can.
Kayla Harrison, star athlete. Everybody knows that. There's no denying that.
Absolutely.
Amanda Nunes is just a monster in that cage. But like, don't like. It's the same process. They're both cutting weight. They're both doing heavy cuts. Amanda's coming off of retirement, so that means that there's a whole process where she's gonna have to get back in shape. Maybe she is in shape, but she's gonna have to get back on her diet, get back down, and then do that whole process. And it's just one of those things where it's like, make them do the presser and have them get on the scale at the presser, see what they weigh. And the presser is usually like 2, sometimes 3 months before the fight. So they get on the scale, you see what they weigh, and then you have a nutritionist that's with them that doesn't work for them, that works for the company or works for the state.
One of the
That,
two, yeah, right.
that what's that?
I said one of the two. The
Yeah,
company,
one
the
of the
commission,
two.
the state athletic commission. One of the two.
They can track the weight. They can make sure the athletes are doing what they're supposed to do to diet correctly, tracking the meal plans, making sure that they're not cheating on the meals. And then the way that my nutritionist does it is we just plan on losing 1 pound a week every week until fight week. That's what we always do. He's like, I just need you to lose 1 pound a week. Sometimes I'll lose like 3 pounds in a week, and it's like, so it's not as hard as people think. It's kind of like what Marab had said. People are like, oh, he's this, star, and it's genetics. And he's like, it's not genetics, man. It's not genetics. I'm at the gym every day. I go
It's
train
discipline at the end of the day.
I don't, Marab was like, I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I want to be the champion of the UFC. So I don't cut corners. And it's like, if you want to take this seriously and you want to get into that upper echelon of fighters, then you got to take it seriously. Look at, granted it didn't go his way, but look at O'Malley. He was like, I quit smoking weed. I quit, watching porn.
I
I
was
quit
actually, I
stuff.
mean, granted, he was going against, Dashvili there, and he is, one of the few, legitimate stars that we have in the UFC today. But I was impressed where Sean's mindset finally was. It seemed like, he was done with the character that Sugar Shane was. He was done with all the outside noise. Granted, sometimes when you get in there, you're just going against a buzzsaw sometimes, and that's just the way the sport is. Sometimes you're the can being crushed, and sometimes you're the machine crushing the can. That night, he just happened to be getting crushed by the machine. But
Yeah.
I think moving forward, if he keeps that mindset, don't let that loss break you, Sean.
Yeah.
Keep that routine, dude. Keep that routine.
Nicest guys I've ever met too in the back during fights. And so, I met him man, when was it? I think I was in New York. I want to say I was in New York, maybe Los Angeles. Either way, I met him at one of the UFCs recently. We were at the PI, so I guess it was in Vegas. Super nice guy. Took some pictures with him. We trained in the same room at the same time. He was with his team and I was with mine, but we got to kind of be around each other a little bit. Like really nice, super nice guy. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, if you smoke weed, you're terrible. Like, dude, if you want to go smoke weed, that's fine, but you have to have a strong mindset. What you can't be doing is partying, staying out late, eating bad food, drinking. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you want to go drink, go have fun, go drink, but don't have something that you're trying to achieve and then be going and getting messed up in the process. Like, I don't drink when I'm in camp. I don't really drink very much at all, but I especially like if somebody invites me out for a late night out, I don't go. Like, even honestly, going out last night to watch the fights, the whole time I was like, man, I don't even want to be here, guys. I just want to go home and go to sleep. I'm tired. Like, I'm only here because I want to watch Usman and Buckley fight, and I don't want to pay for the fights. So I watch the fight here.
Oh yeah, that's going into one of my next ones. Did you see some fan had made a post? He was trying to get tickets to the UFC Chicago. Did you see the prices for nosebleeds for Chicago?
Oh no, what are they?
$2,000.
No good. I'm not. See,
What? Like, yo, I listen. I
who is?
haven't been to the UFC since 133. I wasn't at the last two times that they came. One because they were fight nights, and I just wasn't really attracted to the card. The other thing is because it was Philly. You didn't have Sean Brady. You didn't have Andre Petrovsky. You didn't have any of the Philly guys on it. So what was the point of putting an event on Philly because you didn't have anyone on it?
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to watch it. And then there's things like this where you're sitting there seeing like I think it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of who they have on the card, the type of card it is, but you also have the other side of it where if it depends where you're getting tickets from. Are you getting tickets from a fighter? Are you getting tickets from Ticketmaster? Are you going to another site like SeatGeek or something like that? Because they have another charge where they wind up charging you another $150, $250 just because, and that's still after I just told you all that, that's still over $1,000 for nosebleeds. I'm not paying that. Unless that was a group thing when you're doing like 4 or 5 seats or something, then that might be something we might have a conversation for. But that's out of control. And then especially after, did you see what PFL did over the last week? They're putting their tickets down at like $25.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's, and I love UFC fans are great. You can't do the sport without the fans. But you get these guys that are like, I'm going to pay the price no matter what it is. And then the UFC sits back and they're like, man, they paid the price. Let's raise it again. And that's an unfortunate thing. It's going to get to, and beyond that, it's like the best seat in the house is my living room.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like I listen, I talk about it a lot. A lot of times with you fighters, I have the pleasure of talking to you guys. I know it's electric being there, being at a combat sports event, especially a high level combat sports when we're talking UFC, BKFC, top level boxing events, things of that nature. There's an electricity that is in an arena when you're watching a combat sports event that is close to no other thing. That the only thing I can compare it to is college football, just because of the sheer mass of people that wound up there and the rivalries of college athletics and things of that nature. But you're damn right, brother. I'd rather be sitting in my couch, laying on my bed, whatever, watching the fight, because I don't have a bad angle. I don't have a bad seat. I don't got a freaking bunch of knuckleheads in the row in front of me throwing their arms up so I can't see. And then I don't want to pay for the best seat in the house of being, ringside, cage side, or just depending on the venue you're at, where the best seat in the house is. When I could just be relaxing, I don't have to spend $40 for a cheesesteak and a thing of fries, and I can just do it at my house, man. I love going to combat sports events, but man, they've priced it out, brother.
I went to it was like a smart stadium in Los Angeles when my boy Ricky Tercios fought, and I was cornering him for that. But I cornered in the way where I wasn't actually cage side. I just was his warm up guy and his cut buddy, and I helped him with his workouts throughout the week. And then he gave me one of the tickets that he had, like the fighters get like family
tickets. Comp tickets and tickets they sell, but I get you, brother.
And so I got that seat, which was cool. But then you're in that giant arena and you just can't help it. You want to go buy some merch. You want to go buy this and you want to get that. And you want to just grab a bunch of stuff. And then suddenly I still spent like $500. I'm like, what happened? And so, and again, I understand like that's a part of the game. Like even when I go to my fights, like I sell shirts. I sell, I'm sponsored by one of the merchandise apparel people that's at the fights for the local fights here in Houston, which is Loaded Pistols. And as soon as I get done with the fight, I go over to the booth and I try to help him sell stuff. And so I understand the concept of like, in order for these shows to run correctly, we got to get the merch out. We got to, at the local shows, the promoters are like paying for all the alcohol to be there and all the food to be there. So they're making a profit on that. And again, like, that's great. I think that's awesome. But when you get to a certain point, like, again, especially with Ticketmaster, I ran into that problem with the BK fights. It's in Dallas, so a lot of my fans want to go, family members, teammates, everybody wants to go to the BK fights. And they're like, bro, I went online and tried to get tickets from Ticketmaster, and it was like a $300 charge for all the tickets I wanted to get. It was like, it wasn't a purchase, like a charge for overall purchase. It was a purchase charge for every ticket I wanted. And it's like, so I bought $300 in tickets and I was going to have to pay $300 for surcharges. And I'm like, whoa, dude. So
that's why a lot of times I'd rather go to the, like, I tell a lot of people, like, listen, find a local fighter, ask them for a physical ticket.
Yeah.
And that's the only way. It's either that or you have to get in for the pre-sale for the event. And that's before they announced you guys are on the event.
Yeah. And
so it's like
they luckily the BK guys hit me up and said, how many tickets do you want? And I luckily ordered enough to where I just told everyone to hold off on the Ticketmaster stuff. And then I was able to sell in hand.
But also you got to think about how much that now puts on the promotion too. Like now these sites like Ticketmaster and SeatGeek and all, you're making it so hard, not just for you, the athlete, but the promoter that has put it on the event. Now they gotta go grab X amount of tickets, have them printed up, and then hopefully you sell every one of those tickets. Then you have to play that game of is this person really going, or are they just sitting there doing, then you wind up stuck with 3, 4, 5 tickets that you're just like, all right, great, now I have to figure this out. So it's like there's so many different variables, man. It's rough.
But at the end of the day, it's a spectator sport. We got to please the fans. So, without them going, we don't have a show. So, unless we're talking about Apex fights where there's only 50 people sitting in there anyway. So, but not every promotion can afford to make their own venue and then stream it on Fight Pass or whatever else. So,
yeah, but I don't listen. I was fortunate enough to cover Dave Feldman's promotions when he was here in Philadelphia before he got bought out by CFFC when he was doing XFE. I don't think Dave will ever do an empty arena. It doesn't matter how much money he makes off of the streaming. I don't think he'll ever lose that live event vibe. That's just something that gets his blood going. Him and his brother were fighters at one point in time, and Damien had a good event this weekend. We had celebrity boxing here in Philadelphia, so You had Ric Flair there. You had a former Bellator fighter, Sammy Oropeza was fighting on the card. A bunch of former boxers putting their hats in the ring. It was a fun night. Like you have to keep that vibe. Like as much as as you were just talking about Apex, like I don't think that's something we'll ever see BKFC do.
No,
Ever.
no, and that's I say that just almost as a joke because I've been to those Apex fights. It is quiet in there. You can hear every punch land. That unfortunately you can hear every fan that's there, and that's a weird. I remember one kid was yelling at me like, "Give me your jacket," because I had the fight kit on because was cornering Alex.
Give me your jacket. I love these people.
Screaming at me, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, whose child is this? Which I'm sure he was probably some UFC exec's kid that wanted to go to the fights or something. But just, I mean, hounding at the fighters. Every fighter that walked out, this kid is screaming at them like, give me your jacket. I almost wanted to take one shoe off and then just give him that one shoe and be like, do with it whatever you want, bro. Like, you got one shoe, I'm not giving you the other one. I don't know, man, but yeah, the
Oh,
ticket price
man.
stuff is unfortunately, it's going to be, worse and worse. But I'll tell you what, man, BK is doing it right. They upper seats were cheap. They were like $50. It's an arena style event, so the seats go up as the seats go back. So there's not really a bad seat in the house.
Yeah, like when I was lucky enough to my kids went to Knucklemania. They had good. They were in the 200 level. Wasn't $45 a ticket. I asked when the fight was over. I asked my kids they were great. I could see everything. It was a great event, things of that nature. So it's like you don't have to have these seats that are $1,000 a pop. And I think mainly why we're seeing that right now, for people who don't know, if you looked at the first quarter numbers for TKL, they are $3 million in the red.
Yeah. Ugh.
So
Good.
that's probably why those tickets are probably around there. Like I said, there's different factors that why everything is, things that you were talking about. Fans just go because they want to go and they'll wind up paying it. There's just so many things. Like when we talk about combat sports, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, this is unfortunately the ugly part of it right now.
Well, I'll tell you a very ugly part of the fight situation. I don't know if it's been released yet. I talked to my manager. I'm allowed to say it, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you. My opponent decided to call me up and ask me for a different weight class, to which I was already ready to cut weight and almost on weight. So I said no. And so I lost my opponent, which is Campos.
So he's
Yeah, he's out. And he very like the message was weird too. He was like, "Hey man, we're both professionals. Let's not cut weight." And I'm like, "This first of all, that's a very weird and contradictory thing to say."
We're both professionals. I'm not going to be able to make weight. I want to be a lazy fuck. And hey, let's agree to fight at a different weight class. Come on, man.
Bro, and he didn't ask for like 5 pounds. He wanted from 155 all the way to 165. And of course, I was like, no. I talked to my coaches, Alex Morono, Ricky Tercios, and those are my main two guys. We all three really support each other in the process. Our striking coach Matt Wald is very involved, as well as my manager Tony Orozco. And so we just sat down and we were like, this doesn't make sense. Like, how does it make sense for me to do this?
I mean, if he's giving you money, that's the only way. And I still like, I can tell just from talking to you that money ain't changing your hard work at that point in time, right?
And so I was like, what can we do? And we were like, well, let's give him 5 pounds. And then, but my manager was like, but he's gonna have to pay for that. We're so close to the fight time. And so we said to him, we'll do 5 pounds, but you'll have to pay a little bit. Not much either. Like I don't know what he's making on his check, but it's probably good coming off Bellator. So I think we asked for like $1,000. And then he was like, no, I'm not giving you that much. I'll make 55. And I was like, well, then why did you even ask? And then he calls back a day later and he's like, I can't make 55 to his manager. I'm nowhere near it. That's what he told his manager. I'm nowhere near it. It's like, why did you sign a contract for 155 pounds? And if you were nowhere near the weight class? And so, at that point, I'm talking to my coaches and we're like expecting him to drop the fight. And Friday morning, I get the call from the manager, and I answer the phone, and the way he's like, "Hey, man," and I'm like, that did not sound like a good "hey, man." And so unfortunately, the fight, there was a lot of back and forth with him saying he was going to make it, then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't, and I'm talking 4 phone calls of he's not going to make it, he dropped the fight, he is going to make it, we're good, he's not going to make it, he is going to make it, he'll take 160, and then actually 5 calls, because then the 5th call was he's not going to make 160 either. They're gonna change it. Luckily, my manager did the work. Nate Shook did the work, and they got me a short notice replacement. So we're still on the card. We're still good to go. We're still debuting.
So, are you allowed to say who you're fighting now?
Um,
Or are you just keeping it close to the chest, praying that it just goes through?
Yeah. I gotta like just that little bit is I'll keep it to myself. But we got to fight.
All right.
That's good. Everything's still good to go. I'm still on track for making 155, which was my original plan, which is what I professionally signed for to make.
Yep.
And I just made 155 last month for the Submission Hunter Pro series for the belt that I just won. And I made scratch weight, so I made 155. With regular weight classes, if it's not a title fight, you get that pound allowance. So I'm about to make 156, and you better believe I'm gonna use that pound. But
people talk about this all the time, man. Like, we were talking about it earlier with that rapid extreme weight cutting. Like, listen, if you sign a contract, it don't matter if you sign it, 3 months before the fight, 2 months before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight. Like, you say you're going to make this weight. Don't immediately sit there and say, like, hey, we're all professionals, let's agree to, like, listen, the promotion just came up with the weight. We don't make up the weight. You sign the contract, you put the work in.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, that's not being professional. That's, you don't call your opponent up like you guys are buddies or something, like, hey man, like, I got this going on, I can't do this, I don't have this situated. Like, listen, man, just be honest with it. If that's the case, dude, move up a weight class. Stop wasting the 55ers times, man. It's unprofessional. It's something that you shouldn't have to deal with stress wise. Because what if you done put all this work in and then the backup plan doesn't go through? Then you're asked out time, money, effort, etc.
Yeah, and then beyond that is, I could have had, more time to plan for a different opponent had you just been honest from the very beginning. Because let's face it, if I get a phone call that says from a manager, my guy's nowhere near making weight, I assume as a guy who fights at 155 pounds and is a true 55er, like, I cut to 45 and I did those rapid, terrible weight cuts. They were terrible on my body. I feel like it shortened my life overall. And, if he's saying he's nowhere near making 55, that means he's got to be walking around at like 185, 190. Like, geez, bro, like, what were you thinking signing the dotted line, knowing that you were that heavy? Like,
move up. It's time to move up, fat boy.
I've said this to people too, is like, dude, don't you have sponsors that like sponsored you to make this fight card? If I was sponsoring somebody to be a pro athlete, and then the one thing you didn't do was the one
That's
thing.
the first thing. I do. This is something that goes back to my early days of doing podcasts. What's the first thing you guys are signed to do? To make weight. That's the first thing.
You got 3 jobs in any camp: train, make weight, and fight. You technically don't have to do 2 of those jobs. All you have to do is the middle one. You just got to make weight. That's all. You don't have to train. Then that's fine with me if you don't want to train. But you got to make weight. And guess what? You climb in that ring, you want to put your hands down and let me crack you in the face, then you could do that too. But you got to make weight. That's the one thing. And don't get me wrong, I have busted weight before, and I have been, but by like a pound. Like, I had a rough cut. I did a hellacious weight cut at the end of my career. My last 245 matches, I didn't make weight. I felt terrible. Not only terrible physically, but I felt terrible on a professional level because I agreed to make this weight. And even if it was 1 pound, 2 pounds, I'm looking at my opponent and I see that I'm like, I'm going to be fighting a different version of this dude tomorrow because he is freaking pissed at me now.
Yep.
Because I was the same
Because
way.
now
Bro,
he puts all the work in, right?
dude, I did a catch weight at 160 for my second to last fight, and the guy came in at 161, and there's no pound allowance on a catch weight. So he walks up, he's drinking his Pedialyte, and the promoter's like, he's at 161, and I look at him and I'm like, yo, dude, it's 160, and he's already drinking the Pedialyte, like, oh, I thought we get a pound allowance. And I'm like, do you not like read your do you don't know how to read or something? I'm so upset. But he's already rehydrating, so I can't go make him cut the pound now. So like I get the extra money, which is fine. And I finished the dude with a rear naked choke in the fight, and he's all apologetic and like, I'm so sorry for, messing on that pound. And it's like, what the funny thing was is like, dude, you asked for the catch weight. I didn't ask for the catch weight. I was down for 55. And then you asked for a catch weight, and then you still didn't make the catch. Like that makes no sense to me. But either way, like I said, it's grind time now. We're less than a week out.
Yeah.
The hard part of the training is easy, the fight is easy. The hard part is making weight. So we start the hard part this week. We flush all that weight out. And honestly, like I said, Eric Pena, he works for the UFCPI Pena Performance. He's awesome. He does my nutrition. I was with him for like 2 years of learning how to do everything in the game, and all I do is literally just follow the plan. I wake up in the morning, I eat my food that I'm supposed to eat, I hydrate with what I'm supposed to hydrate with. And then a couple hours later, I do the meal plan again. I hit my training session. A couple hours later, I do my meal again. And I just follow that. And does it get tedious? Yes. Do I want to go out with my friends and go out to a restaurant and eat the bad food? Yes. But I also want to be great. And that's the one thing that these athletes, especially these early athletes, you have to understand. Like, I want to be great locally, on a national level, on a world level. I want to be great. And the only way to do that is to follow the rules that you have put in front of yourself to achieve that greatness. And again, man, like I said, like I also have sponsors. I'm a full-time martial artist. I teach jujitsu. I do private lessons of jujitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling. Like I just full-time train all the time. My body is my product. And I know you got those guys out there that I don't know what else they maybe do, but like Patty Pimblett's out there gaining like 90 pounds every time he fucking gets done with a fight. That shit's crazy to me. But
Yeah,
why?
he ain't gonna be able to do that. That's not sustainable. I mean, we all know that as a fan, as an athlete, as a coach, we know that's not sustainable. He's being a young kid. He's being silly and stupid. He's gonna have to put in hellacious work on his body in between that to get back down to 45 to where he normally fights at. So that's on him, man.
That's where you accumulate injuries. That's what happened to me, man. I was making those terrible weight cuts. I was having to not eat when I wanted to eat. I was doing a lot of guesswork because I wasn't following a nutrition plan, and then my body started to shut down on me. And I have injuries now that are forever injuries. They'll never go away. I will deal with them for the rest of my life because of making a weight cutting mistake. And that's just, I try to tell all the young guys on my team, like, guys, this is the way it's done. This is what needs to happen. This is what goes in. And it's not even like a crazy situation. You just don't eat certain things during certain times of the day. If you're about to go to bed, don't have bread and pasta before you go to sleep. You want to have pasta, you have that midday for lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like, get your carbs in the daytime, get your protein and your vegetables at night. If you want to have fruit, you have your fruit during the mid afternoon. The diet plans aren't bad if they're thoroughly explained to you and you understand the system at which you're doing it. And so, like, I don't know how other nutritionists have done it. I've experienced Ricky Tercios's meal plans because he has the PI working for him. I've experienced Alex's meal plans because the same thing. He's in the UFC. I've seen how they do it. That's why I ended up hiring Eric Pena's because he works for the UFC and he does it well. And honestly, I think they do it well. So anyone who's like if you have anyone who's doing guesswork for you on your weight cutting, or if you got one of those old school MMA fighters, which I'm kind of thinking Derek Campos probably had one of those old school coaches that's like, you just gotta eat nothing for 3 weeks and then you'll make the weight, and That's terrible, man. You're in the wrong camp. You need to, that's what sponsors are for. Like, I use huge percentages of my sponsorship checks to pay for my nutritionist, to pay for my strength and conditioning coach, to invest into myself. And then the paycheck at the end of the day, when I fight, whether or not it replenishes that, it doesn't matter, because I'm not fighting for money. I'm fighting for glory. I'm fighting for my legacy, and I'm fighting for my resume. Like, nobody wants to train with the guy in the gym that's doing a lot of guesswork. You know who they want to train with? BKFC fighter, MMA vet, submission hunter pro champ. That's who they want to fight. That's who they want to train with. And so I am my product. So these dudes that are doing all this guesswork, you guys go pay somebody who went to school for it and only deals with fighters. Like, not some bodybuilding coach, not some fighter that's cut weight incorrectly 50 times, but he miraculously made it every time, so he's telling you what to do. Like, no, go get a dude that understands the game. He went to school for it. There are sciences that back up this stuff nowadays. It's a bright day and age for fighters now. And then beyond that, like, do your body mass index. Like, I fought at featherweight for so long because I thought I was a featherweight because I'm short. But it turns out my body mass index wants me to be a 55er. So as soon as my nutritionist was like, yo, dude, you're not supposed to be at 45. You're supposed to be at 55. I'm telling you right now, like, an inch is not going to make a difference when you are healthy. And when I fought at 155 pounds, I fought a dude that was way bigger than me, and I demolished him. When I fought at 160 pounds and I fought a dude that was bigger than me, I crushed him because I felt good and I didn't cut a hellacious amount of weight. So that's, again, it is what it is with these guys doing all the guesswork. But hopefully with the weight cutting issue, again, I think the best way to do it is have them weigh in before the contract is signed. And if they're like 30 pounds to 40 pounds out, then you need to find a guy that'll fight them that they can agree to at the next weight class up. And if that's not the case, then if you're going to be in the UFC, you should be maintaining a certain weight at all times. Like, honestly, you should have the ability to take short notice fights. That's how close you should be on weight. Like, if you get called off the couch, let's face it, if you're serious about it, you're not on the couch. But if you get called up, you should be like, I can make that weight. I'll take it. Let's go. And that's how it should be. Like, if it all goes well on Saturday night, I piece this dude and knock him up, get him done in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth round, whatever. I don't take a lot of damage. I'm gonna look at the BKFC and be like, yo, man, I'm not all messed up. Let's get another one lined up as soon as possible. And then beyond that, like, hey, and if anything falls out, you let me know and I'll show up and I'll get to 155. Or 160. I don't mind 160. Now, 165 is a little brash because I'm walking around at 170. So, but let's be professional.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of the mantra of the evening. That let's be professional. Let's do things the right way. Between what I was already talking about, what you let me know about your opponents, what we were already going down those lines. There, like I said, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes we see all of them within a span of a fight week. So, but yeah, I'm with you there. We just I think as an athlete, we all have to hold ourselves accountable to a certain level. And as we were already talking about, 3 things: train, make weight, go fight. It's not that hard. If you can't make the weight, don't sign the contract.
Yeah. I can only assume that when he got the contract, he was like, ooh, well, I need this paycheck. So, and so I guess,
But yeah, all you're gonna do at the end of the day is burn bridges, and now you're not gonna entertain a fight with him because you already know he's unprofessional.
Yeah.
Bare knuckles you're gonna be on thin ice with them because now they're gonna have trouble matching you because it's gonna get around this guy that doesn't want to make weight. He's gonna give you calls and he's gonna try to give you every excuse on the book to make it a catch weight. And how do you sell fights at a catch weight when you guys are trying to build up divisions and guys who want to move up rankings? As you're sitting there saying, you're not doing this for the fun or the money. You're doing it for the glory of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of athletes, when you get to this level, get to a certain age, it's about the fights that make sense, not just to go in there and fighting anybody. So I'm sure if and when you get that win Saturday night, you're gonna start looking, okay, well, who's ahead of me in the top 15 ranking for BKFC? Okay, I'll take this guy, or this guy. Let me know when they're free.
Yeah, it's exactly it, man. Like, again, just be professional. Just be professional.
Listen, I don't blame you for going back to it and being irritated. I'd be freaking irritated about it now too. Like I've had situations where you call people out on just being professional, doing things in the right way. They get upset about it. They want to sit there and message you and do. There's always somebody that's got something to say about it. Like, listen, dude, just at the end of the day, you know what's expected of you. You know what you signed up for. Be professional. I mean, that will be the mantra of this episode. Be professional.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I'm going to switch gears and get you off it. We were talking about last night's fights, man. We have to talk about the controversy from last night, brother. Anthony Smith already called it out. Poor Paul Craig. Unfortunately, did upkick his opponent. He deserves an Oscar for that last night, correct?
Man, I don't know, because I'll tell you, I fought in LFA. I fought a guy named Gabriel Silva, and he like starch cold knocked me out. I was fighting on Dana White's Looking for a Fight. So I got it in my head that I wasn't going to grapple. I was just going to throw down the whole time to like show Dana I was ready to get signed to the UFC. I got hit with a punch right on the temple, and it kind of like blinded me for a second. And so I backpedaled with my hands straight out, and I bounced off the cage, and the guy caught me right on the chin with an uppercut. As soon as my butt hit the ground, my body went into instinct mode, and I drove in on a double leg on the ref. I took the ref down. I started to pass his guard. The only reason I know this is because I watched the video. Nobody was home. You could see it in my eyes. Like, I couldn't focus. I was just kind of looking around, but I was holding the ref by the neck with my hands straight up in the air, ready to throw a punch. And the doctors like ran up on me, and they were like, "Do not hit him." And I was like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, you could see.
Why are you in here?
And so, like on the one end, it did look a little bit like
theatrics.
There was a little bit of theatrics going on, but also I've been there. I remember I was like peeling their hands off, and I was like, "I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm fine." I mean, I don't remember, but I remember watching the video of it. And then I didn't wake up until I was back in the back locker room, and they were tugging my gloves off of me, and one of the jerks of the glove getting pulled off my hand brought me back to reality. But I was eyes open, walking around, like getting carted around, all glazed over by everybody. And I'm like, when that happened to him and he got up kicked and I saw it, I was like, man, having experienced something like that before, I didn't do all of that. Like, I didn't shake on the ground and then butt scoot backwards and then try to wrap up De La Hiva on the ref. But again, it does that. Those flash knockouts are crazy, man.
Yeah,
like your brain gets and your body goes instinct mode. And when you've dealt with, round after round after round after round after round all throughout camp, sometimes your body will do what it needs to do to keep itself protected. And so I like, it's like I'm 50-50. Half of me agrees with Anthony Smith, but then also half of me is like, hey man, that up kick may have been worse than you think. Those are some big boys, and he got like snap kicked in the face.
Yeah, I mean, it was an up kick. It was a nice axe up kick. Regardless if Paul meant to do it or not, is another one of those things that people like to throw out there. But it's one of those things when you're in that position, that's kind of like you were talking about. It's an instinct, flash knockouts. That's an instinct thing. So it's one of those things where it's unfortunately, one of those things you can't really avoid all the time. But like I said, it's the nuances of MMA where it just rears its head, and sometimes there's nothing you can really say or do about it. It's just what happened to happen at that moment. You know, at the moment, it's not a DQ; it's a no contest. So we'll see if anything changes there. I know a lot of people are giving my man some heat right now. So you know, and we see that a lot in combat sports. You know, yeah, I guess what's the phrase going around now? Fraud checks. You know,
Yeah.
these guys being hyped up. You know, these guys coming from wrestling backgrounds or coming from this background. And it's always, oh well, he or she just got fraud checked, well, or maybe we just overhyped them and they got put in there with somebody who was, you know, above their level, and we seen where their skill is at right now. When you can say fraud check is when they're going in there and they still have that hype and they haven't gotten any better, they haven't learned from their mistake. I say it all the times, like you're not really a fighter until you get humbled and you get one of those L's. You get caught in a submission. You get knocked out. Some fighters have the fortunate, you know, skill set. They never get to be humbled like that. They never get to feel that experience. To be a real professional mixed martial artist, you got to get somewhere up the mountain, get knocked down, and climb back up it again sometimes. And it's one of those things, like we live in the you know, the social media world, and anyone could say anything behind a keyboard, a video camera, whatever. But I think it's an unfair thing, especially with some of these, you know, up and coming young prospects. Oh, well, they've been fraud checked. No, they haven't. They just found where their level is right now. I don't think anyone's being fraud checked. Hype is hype. You know, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But I'm getting sick of the fraud check nonsense. That's just me.
Yeah, and then beyond anything else, I'll tell you this: one of the scariest things you can ever do is make that walk. That is a scary process. You walk down that corridor, that tunnel, that walkway, and you look at that cage, and either you're the first one in or you're the second one in. When you're the first one in, you're then waiting on your opponent to get there. When you're the second one in, your opponent's watching you the whole way in. And so it's you know, it's still nerve-wracking to this day every time I do it. It's exciting. I like crave the feeling of it, but it's still nerve-wracking. So anyone who climbs in that cage, especially at the top level, you know, Anthony Smith being, you know, who he is, I understand where he's coming from, but that in itself is hard enough. So the fact that he was able to climb in there with Paul Craig, a jiu-jitsu MMA phenom, you know, a giant human being overall, at the end of the day, you're either going to take these hard, you know, situations, you're going to take these challenges and you're going to shine, or you're going to get shined on. And that's one, it's one of those, it's 50-50. This is one of those scenarios where it's the other, you know, it's the 33, 33, 33, I guess, you know, the other outcome is something crazy happened and the fight went to no contest. And you know what? They'll probably get matched up again. They'll redo the fight. I assume Paul Craig will triangle that guy, and then, you know, it'll be what it is. So, you know, it's whatever. But, you know, yeah, at the end of the day, all these keyboard warriors, all these guys that don't do it or haven't been there before or aren't at that level, they really just have no business talking about that. I've had guys get on Facebook or Instagram and message me after fights. Sometimes
Those are
after
the best ones. Right after a fight, they're in your inbox. Like, dude, who are you?
yeah, I'm like, bro, I don't even know you. Why are you talking to me? And they're like, oh, you did this the whole fight, and that's not
You're the
respect.
most terrible fighter in the planet. But
They come to my gym, sign a waiver, and then do rounds with me, and then you tell
I
me.
think Sam Alvey's the best for that. Have you seen him on social media
Oh, I
over like the
know.
past year or so? He's just be like, "Listen, come fly out. I'll send you. You can come to my ranch. You can stay at my ranch. I'll give you a nice little room. We go to the gym and we'll see what's what." I
Yeah,
love him for doing that,
yeah,
man.
man. It's these guys. I mean, but the good thing is, it's one of those things where, because that specific thing is happening, where these streamers are getting flown out and beat up. You know, I would love for that to happen. That would be great if some streamer was to call me out and be like, "I'm going to go test Jake Heffernan," because I'll tell you what, no matter what performances I've done in the cage, when I'm in my gym and I'm on my home turf and I'm representing my coaches and teammates, I am the mat enforcer at my gym. I
That
crave
testosterone level gets ramped up too, right?
I crave when those wrestlers show up and they're like, "I'm going to show everybody that I can be the best," and I just beat them up something fierce. My favorite thing to do is when somebody's going too hard with one of the younger fighters, or even with somebody that doesn't fight, they're just there to get a workout, and this guy's just leg kicking them or punching them in the face too hard, I go drop them with a body shot. That's my favorite thing. I didn't even punch you in the face, dog. I hit you in your belly, and you keeled over and started
Liver
crying.
kick.
Yeah, like knee to the rib cage. See how you like it, bro. Like,
Oh man.
again, that's one thing I like that. Sean O'Malley's done it. Mike Perry's done it.
Strickland.
Strickland's done it a lot. Even Andrew Tate. He fought like 300 guys or 30 guys or some odd
Yeah,
number.
I seen the video. He was basically fought like 60 some guys in like 25 minutes or something like
Yeah, and it's like he beat up every one of them because none of them fought, none of them trained before, and it's like, dude, Andrew Tate's not even that good, but he
He's
trained.
not.
And it's like what we call them is the uninitiated. They come in and they talk all that mess, but they've never gone through rounds with pro fighters, and they're
Yeah.
like, dude,
Listen,
hey, like, don't.
I got the utmost respect. I may be critiquing a fighter on some things. I may sit there and talk about like, hey, you could use this to your advantage or that to your advantage. But at the end of the day, I respect all you guys. You guys go in there like, I watched my kids train for the better part of 6 years. You guys, there's a level. There's a level
Yeah,
to normal average Joes like me and guys like you and even girls. Don't sleep on the female fighters either because they're just as nasty. I know Juliana Pena was just talking about getting beat up by a line chef before she became an actual legitimate fighter. But like, there's levels, man, and sometimes some people need just like as Tyson said, sometimes you just got to punch these idiots who like talk too much in the mouth. Let them know.
yeah, that's the way to do it, honestly.
And speaking of guys testing themselves and putting themselves in the limelight, I don't know if you've seen this. I came across this. I got to talk about it. Former Philadelphia 76er Michael Carter Williams is now 3-0 as a professional boxer. It's not rare we see guys who are athletes in other sports excel when they come over to combat sports because there was a former cowboy named Greg Hardy. He didn't do too well.
Yeah, honestly, it's
and obviously he was in the news recently because he got himself into some more legal troubles and stuff like that. But he's been having a rough go at it, even outside after he's left the UFC. He's been put on his butt a few times. So it's nice to see one of these guys, especially a basketball player, former Philadelphia 76. I got to throw it out there, coming over to boxing and getting some things done. Hopefully, see how he does in another year or two. See if he keeps it up.
Man, honestly, I love it when that happens. I think it's super, super cool. I think also what that is these guys probably have been training. They
What about,
probably,
like, you got to think about it, like, I mean, when you talk about high level athletes, like when you're talking about like, NFL players, NBA players, you have to train at everything to train your body to get ready for these seasons, like hockey players and things of that nature. I mean, obviously hockey players are guys that are definitely going to be in the gym, boxing, kickboxing, doing things of that nature just because of, the sport they play. But when you see some of these guys, like, that they're doing more than just, drills that are attested to their particular sport. They're doing everything to keep their body at these high levels, man. And we were just talking about that. Did you see what Lesnar's daughter did this weekend?
Yeah, she set some records.
National shot put champion. First off, her mother's genes did not transfer over. That's all Brock. Right
No, yeah, she looks like Brock for sure.
But and that's not nothing bad either because he's an absolute animal. Now, obviously, we've got other former heavyweights. Maya Mir's getting ready to go for her third amateur fight. You think we're ever going to see Maya over here getting a chance to do some UFC like Brock? You think that she's ever going to test her reins at that, or is it he's going to school her up that, like, listen, there's another level to this too?
Man, honestly, if she was smart, she would use her dad's hookups to get her in some pro wrestling. That's what I would do.
Yeah, dude, like, listen, being the shot put champion right now, listen, we know you got strength, girl. We know you got the strength.
So it's like if she has a real interest and she wants to do it, that's not going to be something her dad, like, it's one thing I always with my kids. my kids train because I want them to be able to defend themselves, but they don't
Yeah.
have to do what I do. Like, you guys don't got to do what daddy does. That is what I do because I want to do it. Nobody
Hmm.
can make you climb into a cage. I have seen guys go to the fight card, show up, get wrapped, watch one fight, turn around, look at the coaches and go, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And they've had to get talked into going in and fighting. And you know what happens to those dudes?
They
They
quit.
get beat up, and then they quit, and then they get TKO'd or finished. Or what's worse is their coach, you know, talks them into it when they weren't ready, and then they go out there and they get super knocked out. And it's one of those things where you can't make people fight. Like, if my son wants to be a YouTuber, he wants to do podcasts, and he wants to, you know, do game reviews and toy reviews and things like that. And I'm like, I'm
Well, that's
totally.
what my son is, right? He's doing that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'll buy you all the equipment. We'll make sure it's done the right way and safely, and that you're not dealing with any weirdos on the internet. And then we'll do it. And then, but my daughter, she's like, Daddy, I want to do what you want to do. And I'm like, yo, keep that energy, but it's whatever you want to do. I will support you with whatever you want. Now, if she, if she's a super athlete, Brock Lesnar's daughter,
Hmm.
that is something that is ingrained into her. If you want to call it genetics, you can call it genetics. It looks to me like it's just a ton of hard work and a good example set in front of her with her dad. That's what it looks like. That is my goal. I just want to set an example that you can't have whatever you want in life. Like the parents that are like, oh, you can be whatever you want. No, you can't. You cannot be whatever you want. You can be whatever you work really, really hard to be. You want to be an investment banker? You got to learn math. You want to be a scientist? You got to learn chemistry. You want to do something, you got to go learn it. You got to immerse yourself into it, and you got to make it something that you can literally tell some people, I'm a professional at this. Like, I am a professional jiu-jitsu athlete. I am a professional retired MMA fighter. I am a soon to be professional boxer. Why? Because I immerse myself into it. I am addicted to training. Every aspect of training, lifting, running, dieting, cutting, coaching, all of that stuff is my every single day. I live it, I breathe it. It runs through my veins. Like there's no guesswork being done, like I said before. So if that's something that, like, these athletes that, maybe they did boxing when they were younger, it was just something they tried but they loved, and then they found out they were really good at basketball or football or baseball or whatever, and they pursue that, and they do what they want with it, and then they go to something else. Like me, I wanted to do everything in the world with MMA. I thought that was going to be it for me, and then I realized how good I was at jiu-jitsu, and then I realized that I really like to box rather than mix the two together. I'd rather just do jiu-jitsu, and now I'm the 155 champ, and I'm going to go do boxing, and then hopefully I get to be the 155 bare knuckle FC champ eventually. So it's one of those things where, just because you start with one thing doesn't mean you can't change, but you do have to immerse yourself. You have to work really, really hard at
Now,
it.
as you're sitting there saying you love jujitsu, you're a coach and stuff like that. You're already connected there at UFC PI and stuff like that. Would you be opposed to getting involved when the UFC does get in ready to launch their UFC BJJ stuff?
Oh, I'm gonna go try to get the Submission Hunter Pro title for 155. I got a title defense coming up, so defend the no gi title, and then I'm gonna go to try to go clutch up the gi title for 155. And then I'm going to make my argument to the UFC, like, hey, I'm the best in Texas at 155 pounds. What's up? Like, put me in. Like, age is not a factor when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Age is a factor when it comes to MMA. And I understand that. And I've said this before to other people. UFC wants to get as much longevity out of their athletes as possible. When you are zeroed in on one style, you can do that till you're 50. But the mixture of having to go to boxing class on Monday, kickboxing on Tuesday, jiu-jitsu on Thursday, MMA class on Friday, it's like your body just goes through so much wear and tear. Like, I have so enjoyed doing this boxing camp, and I'm coming off the jiu-jitsu camp. This camp has been 12 weeks for me. 12 weeks of 6 weeks of jiu-jitsu camp, 6 weeks of boxing camp. And I've always been boxing. I've been boxing since I was 19 years old. I've been in boxing classes, taking boxing, seriously, but I've been using it from MMA. Now getting to zero in on just doing boxing, my body is not dealing with any of that wear and tear like it was with MMA, where I'm like, like doing grappling for an hour, and then in the next hour, I'm jumping straight into kickboxing class and doing kickboxing. And then the next day I'm doing MMA, and then I'm doing jujitsu again. And then I'm doing, I'm doing
But
3
also, you
sessions.
got to think you're not just your body's overloaded, your mind's overloaded. So, what are you actually retaining when you're trying to do that too? It's
Yeah.
people really don't understand how hard it is to do MMA. I was talking to one of the guests last week. We just seen the NFL throwing their hat into flag football for the Olympics. You think we're ever going to see MMA in the Olympics? There's just too many variables to get that to go, right?
Man, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll ever happen. It's hard enough. I remember at one point they were talking about trying to do jujitsu in the Olympics, and that's been hard enough. And if it's like we can't even get jujitsu in there, but there's judo and stuff like that. But the problem is there's just so much. There's so much going on with the smaller details, like you said, with MMA, that I don't ever see it being something like, and then beyond that, with the Olympics, I think you have to be an amateur to do Olympics boxing, right? I don't think you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you've done any type of pro anything, like you're not going to get big athletes. But I'm saying like how you wind up growing. Like a lot of times those amateur boxers that wind up winning gold medals. How many times have you seen them go and turn around and become multiple division world champions? The list is pretty long.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, I do think if you'd probably have to be completely geared up, shin guards, head guards. But I think you would probably have to do a similar to an amateur MMA rule set, like no elbows, no things that like you all have to take a few of those things out. But I think it could help it grow. But I just think there's too many things that happen, injuries, weight classes. There's so many different variables going on there where I think it may not it may never happen, or it may be almost impossible to get it to be a high level of excitement that most fans are used to watching, unless you truly love MMA to the point where it doesn't matter if it's amateur, if it's headgear, shin guards, etc.
Yeah, it's again, it's too many factors. I think keeping everything on the specifics away from MMA, just boxing, just judo. Again, I would rather see jujitsu in the Olympics before I would
I
see
agree.
it. So keep everything on the specific end when it comes to the Olympics. And then we'll get those gymnasts, we'll get those judo, gold medalists, we'll get those,
Hey, I
the
mean,
medalists.
you have two judo medalists being UFC champions in Ronda Rousey and Kayla Harrison. You have some good representation there. I
Yeah.
agree. I think we should. It's long overdue. Jiu-jitsu should be an Olympic sport. I don't care if you put it in winter, if you put it in summer. It really doesn't matter. It should be in one of the two, regardless. And it's something to give some of these athletes to grow for. We have Olympic level wrestlers doing all kinds of stuff, doing great things. That are amateur wrestlers through the college years. A lot of times it's either at that point they either become pro wrestlers or they're thrown into MMA. Give them a chance to go fight for to basically fight and show their skills off for their country. Give them that opportunity. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If we never get MMA, we never get MMA. But at least give us jujitsu.
And honestly, man, like to me, the UFC is the Olympics of MMA. So, we're pretty much set there, anyways.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, Olympics to a point, but yeah, I mean, how UFC has grown over the last 10 years internationally, things of that nature. I know I'm pretty hard on them right now, just because the stars ain't popping out like they used to. I say, that they if they don't do something really soon, star power is going to be all but gone.
Yeah.
And then you're having the price thing that we already talked about earlier and things of that nature. You're going to have a problem if they don't start developing stars like they were the early days of the Ultimate Fighter, where almost you could count there was at least 5 guys or girls from each show that would wind up being a star to some level, regardless if they became a champion or not. You were invested in watching them win, lose, grow, fail, etc. You were invested, and I don't know if it's maybe the fans have changed or just the way that the UFC goes about promoting those things. They're in trouble in that aspect, in my opinion.
Yeah, they don't really do it's almost like they expect you to, oh, everyone's got their own social medias, get your own followers, say something crazy online. Like I think it's just one of those things where the social media kind of has ruined a lot of aspects of the promotions doing the work to make the stars, because they expect the fighters to make themselves into these stars, and it's just not happening that way. Social
I
media.
hear you, but also you got to remember too. Remember the countdown shows? They'd almost do the entire main card.
Yeah.
Now you have to be lucky if they just do the main and co-main and maybe a feature fight on the card.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, and I'm sure some people will say, oh, it's because of COVID, or you
Don't
know
blame COVID. Stop it.
yeah, exactly. Like, dude, it's not that. I'm telling you right now, it's the fact of in my opinion, I really do think it's the backlash of what social media is doing to, because some, and I don't mean to be mean, but some girl online can wear a outfit that has her boobs out, and she's going to be having more followers than any professional athlete, by not just a couple of thousand, by like a million followers,
Yeah, I
because
know what you mean. Like, and it's sad when you talk about it because a lot of the if you look at it, a lot of the female athletes, that's how they build their brand is off of the back of the sexualization of social media. I agree
and,
with that 100%.
and then
And
how do
that's
you
why I laugh when you see some of these fighters be like, "Well, I'm not interested in the women's fight." Well, I'm like, "Well, the fans might disagree with you
yeah.
because I still think fans are more invested with their fights. One, because the female athletes, it's hard to find those top level girls, and two, half of them are already picturing what they look like when they don't have their clothes off. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, there's certain positions when they get into, when they're in mount or in side control, that everybody in the crowd is like, whoa, suddenly this fight got interesting. So yeah, that's definitely happening. But the problem is, the men aren't able to do that. That's not happening with the
Well, except unless you're for Corey Sandhagen. I don't know if you heard about that, right?
Oh, you know what? I did hear about that. That's funny. That was a
No,
fun,
who makes $2 million off showing off your basketballs, man? How do you do that, bro? Teach us.
but that's the man, and then that bleeds into the issues that we're having with
Yeah, it does.
all this other
It's sad
stuff.
that he has to do something like that to kind of crowd fund his career. Like
Yeah,
it's rough, man. Like you have to cross a
and
line where you feel like you probably shouldn't have to.
then I don't want to be the dad that my kids go to school.
Oh yeah, right. That's the other side of it, man.
Some dude's bullying my son because he showed him a picture of me online because I was trying to make $20. Like, I can't have that. So,
Oh,
and if that's what Corey Sandhagen's actually doing, if whether it was a joke or not, I don't know. But at the end of the
well,
day,
yeah, well, we could probably count like just about 30% of the UFC's female roster that has OF accounts that have probably doubled that. They probably
oh
paid
yeah,
for their entire fight camps for multiple years and things of that nature. But that's up to them if they want to do that. Like I'll give OnlyFans credit to a point where not only do they sponsor athletes, but they tell them they don't have to do the adult rated stuff. That just do training videos, do X, do Y, do Z, and
and
just
if
be
you guys want
be
to pay me $20 for my feet shots, I guess I'll take it. But that's about all you get from me.
Let's go see Jake's hairy feet.
Hey man, I got some really nice. I take care of my feet. My toenails are immaculate. So if you guys want some feet that are really big but also well taken care of, I guess that's what we can do. But beyond that, bro, like, again, it just, and then the perversion of what's happening online is also just, I feel like that's making society worse and worse, and it gives people excuses to, bring that to the schools and bring that to my young children. And I'll tell you what, I am one of those dads where if I find out some pervert is doing something weird in front of my child, I'm going to go have a conversation. And that conversation might not be what you like. And that conversation might not have
As we're
words.
on Father's Day, we talk about that guy you always see the video of, they're, Louisiana, they're bringing this guy who kidnapped this kid and did all these things. He used to work for the TV network. He's hiding by the freaking,
The phone.
the phone booth thing, and he just put one in his head and pleads guilty, whatever. The funny part is the older son reposted that video earlier. He was like, the funny thing about that is, obviously, my brother, had a traumatic experience, but dad pulled the ultimate dad mood. Like, listen, a lot of us feel that way. I think a lot of us feel that Cain Velasquez shouldn't be spending any time in jail after the things that he had to go do with. But our judicial system fails. How is the guy that assaulted his son sitting at home still to this day on house arrest with an ankle monitor while Cain Velasquez is in jail? It makes no sense to me. I mean, I would still be livid, but and he has to play the card that he did something wrong. No, I don't feel Cain did anything wrong, and furthermore, I think Cain should have better aim and rid everyone of this world of that man. But then California penal system would have really slammed the hammer down on him and probably would have been doing more time. So in that sense, I kind of agree with it. But it's one of those things, man. We're dads, man. If we know something bad is happening, we immediately go to do the one thing: who, what, where, when, and so somebody get some bail money up because you're gonna need it.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, bro. Like, I would have been, maybe posted up somewhere with a high powered rifle or something. Take it out. I'll tell you that right now.
And you'd be hanging out with some Navy SEALs, sharpshooters, like, yo, you got to teach me some things, guys. I got some situation I got to deal with in my life.
I got to plead insanity or whatever else so that I can go sit in a room for 2 months and then get out. Then that's what I'll do. But either way, going back on what we were saying before, I think the UFC really does leave it to social media to make
people. It's sad it goes that way too.
I think that's really where we're losing that. Like, when was the last time a UFC guy was on a Wheaties box? You know what I'm saying? Like, when I don't even remember. Or are they still doing it? Because I don't know. And I go to the grocery store to go buy stuff for my kids and stuff, and that's where it's, there needs to, where are the billboards at? Where are the commercials? Grant, where advertisements nowadays, there's no commercials.
I mean, I think the one thing they've gotten better with is, like, I guess the collector's part of things, like sports cards and stuff like that, and unique stuff that they do. Obviously Dana White is very close with Topps. He does his Topps Fridays on his social medias and stuff like that. But I agree with you. I think there's parts of it that doesn't go the way that it used to, and you're not finding these other ways of building the athlete outside of what they do on their own social media, which has forced them to kind of lean this way or lean that way. So, I mean, it's rough. It's something that I think we're stuck in this rut, and I just think we're gonna, as athletes, they're just gonna have to find their way through it to connect with the general public in one way, shape, or form. Justin Gagey is another one, man. I don't know if you've seen this. He donates most of the money for his purse to underprivileged kids. Obviously, Daniel Cormier does a lot of wrestling programs. He sends kids over to Dagestan and stuff like that to train and stuff like that. So they all do their own thing in their own way to kind of grow and connect with people. But it's hard for some of these people who are up and coming that haven't built a brand to be able to kind of connect and do that and grow in that way. So I think if UFC is just leaning on social media, they themselves need to do better to say, hey, we're gonna pick 5 athletes a year from each weight class, and we're gonna do X, Y, and Z to kind of help you guys get out there to more people, to potential sponsors outside of the cage and things of that nature. You have to do something that to help these guys and girls to kind of get out of this mold and trend that we're stuck in.
That's the other thing is like the UFC has so much money that they're not using to pay the fighters. No offense, but maybe like take 5 athletes, 5 UFC guys, 5 different weight classes, take them out to a high school or some event, do a talk, go to the, I know my coach, Alex Morono, he just went and talked to the Boy Scouts and did a whole event over there with the Boy Scouts here in Houston. So it's like, there's options. It's just, I feel like, it's not even, I don't think that they're doing it on purpose. I think that they're just comfortable. And what is the worst thing that you can do is be comfortable.
It's just the worst thing to do with anything when you're involved in combat sport is being complacent or comfortable.
Yeah, you can't.
It's something that I think was the reason why Amanda lost the first time, is because she didn't have a challenge anymore. Somebody like a Kayla Harrison has excited her and got her up for a challenge now. Yeah, and I think we all knew that fight was coming. So it's one of these things where you can't get complacent. You can't just be okay with where things are. And I think that's probably you're right. That's probably the biggest problem that is going on with the UFC is that they've gotten fat and comfortable on top of their throne. It's looking sloppy, man. Someone needs to tell the king to kind of, spiffing himself up and get ready for a big fight, because BKFC is coming. They're coming hard.
David Feldman's done a great job. The more shows he puts out, the more he gets, the company built, the more that he has these options. So he's, as an athlete for the company, I would love to sit down and be like, hey man, send me somewhere. Use me. I'm an athlete. I'm a professional athlete. I've devoted my life to being an example for the younger crowd, the kids, the everyday Joe that thinks that they can't do this. Like, I'm an athlete, bro. Use me. Like, send me somewhere. I'll put me in a basketball game. I don't even watch basketball, but put me there. I'll sit down and I'll go shake some hands and do the things that I need to do. Like, it starts small. It's those little tiny things where it's on a news station where somebody says, oh, pro athlete and pro boxer, BKFC boxer was at a Knicks game this weekend, or a Diamondback game this weekend, or something where we can put us in places where and you can't say, well, he lives in this place. There's an athlete in every single state. There's an athlete
at this point in time. Yeah, the amount of guys they have on the roster or under their wing, regardless of still currently fighting, used to fight, etc. The fact that UFC veteran will open a door for you where it wouldn't have mattered 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah. You gotta do something, man.
Done. The other thing I think that is hard is that when you do put all this effort towards the promotions, and then you're not quite getting back what you want in being taken care of, like, why do boxers
mad, man? That's why that's why Rampage used to get so mad. I remember him flipping out after one of these events. He wanted to see the book speed opened up. He was like, how am I only getting X, Y, and Z? And we done this and we did that. We promoted that. We did this. We did that. Like, I definitely feel where you as the athlete sitting there saying, like, how are you only giving us this? Because I know we put all this effort into it. I know you guys are making X amount of money off of this and that. So it's rough, man, because they still have you guys basically registered as, for lack of a better term, is like indentured servants. You guys are subcontracted employees, man. That's one of the other things I talk about changing the sport. It's something that you as the athlete should be taken care of. Like, even the NFL, I still don't think they do enough. They only cover these guys up to 5 years after they retire. So yeah. It's still not enough. I mean, they do have programs and things of that nature. The NFL Players Association does a lot of stuff, but that's just the NFL. The UFC, MMA, combat sports, boxing, there's none of that. That doesn't exist.
No, yeah, and that's the thing is it's like with being a pro athlete, you kind of are in that point where it's like if I make it say to the UFC Hall of Fame or the Bare Knuckle FC Hall of Fame or the Fury FC Hall of Fame, what does that mean? Is that just a plaque that I take home?
Yeah,
And
it
wrong,
is.
I want nothing more to be in the Fury FC, Hall of Fame. That's one of my goals right now. It's I'm still doing Submission Hunter Pro for Fury. It's the same promotion, and I talk to the promoter all the time. I'm like, man, put me in the Hall of Fame. I've been fighting for you since the amateur days, and it'd be nice. But what would be really great is with one of these like big promotions. I know it's harder for the smaller local promotions, but for these bigger promotions, with like the UFC Hall of Fame, are those guys getting a paycheck for life after that? Is that what that means, or is it
No,
just
I think it's the same thing. Y'all getting a ceremony, a plaque, think something to put in your house, but I don't think there's a dollar sign attached to that. I don't think
party
a lot of these
handshake?
guys get. I don't think any of them get actually taken care of. We
And
already
like,
know that. Like the stuff that happened with Stephen Bonner, he was completely separated, dissolved from the UFC, and that's why he fell down the road he fell down.
yeah, and
It's rough to see some of these guys that we've seen help grow the not just the promotion but the sport as a whole to a level, and then they're just discarded once they're done with the promotion. Do I
honestly,
think that they should be on the hook for everything? No, I don't. I think that, but I think there should be something put in there, like if you guys do, we do X amount of events. If you guys do, 5 meet and greets that year, you're entitled to XYZ.
yeah, I mean,
Put
look at
an
Andre
incentive thing
Arlovski.
in place. Do something where they have to earn their keep, but take care of them, man. It's not
Yeah, like
hard.
look at Andre Arlovski. He was the UFC champ. Like he's been in the sport forever. I think he's been doing MMA for like 26 years or something like
Something
that.
like that. I think he is probably the longest active combat sports athlete that we have right now.
And when he retired, Michelle Watterson had retired the same night. And Michelle Watterson's cool. I don't have anything against her. But they did this big promo when she retired where they were like, did her highlight video and all that. And then, they gave her like a send off. And when Andre Arlovski on the same exact night retired, they didn't do anything for him. He just like went home that night, like got his paycheck and left. And it's like, that was so sad to me.
It's
And
not sad. It's a slap in the face, brother.
it's,
Let's call it what it really is.
and so I'm so glad that he's able to go fight again. And he did the dirty boxing, which was super cool and awesome to watch. Now he's doing Bare Knuckle FC, which is going to be great. Again, it's going to be an honor to share just like a locker room with him is my hope. And but it's one of those things.
Bring an extra set of gloves, brother.
Yeah. Like, hey man, can you sign these real quick? Something. So it'll be it's one of those things where the sport will only grow from here, and it always has been growing. And I don't mean like MMA, I mean combat sports overall has been growing nonstop. Because I'll tell you, this is also one of those scenarios where what do you expect us to do after we fight? We're going to open gyms, we're going to bring up the next echelon of fighters, and then we're gonna continue to be around. Like, why not? Now, don't get me wrong. If you get the guy that spirals out of control, uses all his money to do a bunch of cocaine and get arrested a bunch, and then ruin his own life, like obviously don't.
John Jones. Oh man.
Yeah.
Listen, I love John. He's the GOAT, but he's ruined his personal his personal persona to a point where a lot of people don't like him.
Yeah, and so it's like, but there's so many avenues to make sure that the fighters are taken care of. Like for instance, I do commentary for Fury FC on UFC Fight Pass. I do the commentary for the Submission Hunter Pro matches. I do the commentary for the Challenger Series. I do that as much as I possibly can. It's something I really am interested in. I like, obviously I can sit here and talk for.
You trying to get in that Paul Felder role? I don't blame you.
Dude, I'm trying, bro. I'd love to sit next to Paul and commentate.
He's lucky, man, because good management team, great guy, personable guy. Again, my kids were lucky to be down there at Daniel Gracie, Philadelphia, for a period of time. Him, Sean Brady, all them guys were coming up. Pat Sabatini was always there. I mean, it's good to see a guy that put everything in there. Maybe didn't wasn't the world champion, wasn't the super popular guy, but was taken care of in a way where this is what I'm saying. Like you have ways that you could take care of these guys, have them earn a paycheck, and they're not being one of these guys that's on the news because they fell into depression. They got involved with the wrong people, and they wound up either in jail, doing drugs, pass away, etc. That's what we don't want to see our UFC legends or MMA legends go down that road. I see Mark, where Mark Coleman was 5 years ago to where he is now. Man, he's sober. He's getting healthy. He's doing. He was doing stuff with the UFC. He just got inducted into the Ohio Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's doing commentary. He's looking into doing wheelchair boxing with Wanderlei Silva. Why is he doing that?
It's just one of those things where, again,
he should be taken care of financially, where he doesn't have to do it. Maybe one thing if he just wants to do that, but
I would think
we all can kind of see from the outside looking in that there's probably a dollar sign reason why he's doing that.
I'll tell you this. Now, I'm not saying don't take care of the other smaller fighters. Like, obviously, Paul Felder is a great example of somebody who, Anthony Smith, an analyst. Michelle Watterson has also done, the analytics and stuff. And
she's also in movies right now. She was just on one of the ones with.
And I guarantee you that's from meeting certain people at these MMA shows, getting to talk to them. I met Vince Vaughn one time after an MMA fight with Alex Morano. I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. I'll tell you this, as a combat sports athlete, I was like, what am I going to do after I retire? I became a level 4 security officer. I went and did security for Josh Brolin, and I was the security guard, the main security guard for Thanos, for Gangster Squad, Josh Brolin. That was so cool. And that's one of those things where I'm sitting there talking to him. I'm like, hey, man, I would love to go be your security guard when you're on your next movie set. And then I would love to be on a movie set, watch somebody do a fight scene and be like, that was garbage. I'm a pro athlete. I'm a pro fighter. That's done. And then maybe
you're going to have a conversation with the fight choreographer. Like, no. That's not, like, listen, I know it's movies. It's done. Like, you have to make it at least look semi-real, man.
Hey, man, I'll wear a green mask and you guys can punch me in the face for real, because that was garbage, bro. Something, and either way, like, there's definitely ways, but at the end of the day, like, and again, I was going to lead into this. If you win a UFC title, you should be paid for the rest of your life for achieving that goal. And they should go back.
I think it's one of the hardest things to do as a professional athlete.
The hardest things to do is become world champion. Like, even Olympic athletes, if they achieve gold, they get taken care of for quite a long time. Now, it's not the most amount of money. I think America, you get like $100,000 if you win a gold medal, and I think they give you like $1,200 a month or something. I don't know exactly.
You got to think of it. What's there's 6, 7 divisions.
Yeah. So
it's like out of a 10-year span, you may have less than 20 people win a title.
And then maybe okay. So let's say maybe we don't do everybody who wins a title, but everyone who defended their title. If you defend your title and you win that fight and you have two consecutive championship wins, you should get taken care of the rest of your life. You know who got a raw deal with the UFC after they retire or after they left the UFC? Demetrius Johnson, one of the greatest of all time. Like, bro,
you see, you're going in my next one. My last 2 questions was going to be your Mount Rushmore, because that's kind of what everyone's talking about right now. It's I think it's probably the safest, because I don't think you could do a GOAT for combat sports. You can't do it. Too many eras, too many weight classes, too many styles. I think if Mount Rushmore is the only way you could settle who are your greatest of XYZ is.
Man, I'll tell you, Demetrius Johnson for sure. He's on there.
Yeah, I agree.
George.
The freaking the slam into the armbar has to be the greatest transition that we in modern day mixed martial arts.
It wasn't just awesome to see on a combat sports level. It was beautiful because it was so well done. You know,
It wasn't sloppy. It was super clean.
Yeah, it was
Matt Hume don't get enough credit as a head coach either. I'm gonna put that out there. Everyone talks about Randy Couture and Extreme Couture. Everyone talks about Mike Winkelstein down there in New Mexico.
Mighty Mouse, and then Randy Couture, one of my all-time favorite fighters, Randy Couture, definitely goes in the UFC Hall of Fame. I would say George St. Pierre, because he retired with the belt. Then he decided, I'm gonna come back, win the belt again, and then retire again. Like, that was one of the coolest things ever. So, you know, so Mighty Mouse, Randy Couture, GSP, and then you got to give it to DC all day. You got to.
You keep Jones off the list.
You know, John Jones, you know, there's just too much controversy. You have to have people on Mount Rushmore that embody a good example for my children. And unfortunately,
I hear you, but we're human beings, right? We make mistakes. Should we keep out him for his off? Because I'm going to go into this. This is going to go into a total sports question for you, because what just happened to Pete Rose is disgusting. They have 14 of his items in Baseball Hall of Fame, and until he died, they kept him on the ban list. Now that he has passed away, they put him, not only him, but Shoeless Joe Jackson, available for the media to vote and see if he gets in the Hall of Fame. That is disgusting.
Yeah, they just have so much. You know, the overall.
We're not angels. I'm not going to sit there and say we are.
We're not. Tell you, John Jones is literally, he is the GOAT in my opinion. He is the greatest of all time at light heavyweight. He's, you know,
I'm not going to say at heavyweight. I won't say that at heavyweight, because he hasn't proven that. You've won the belt. You haven't really defended it, in my opinion.
Well, and then beyond that, it's like, you know, I'm looking at longevity and everything like that. So we're looking over time. He's definitely the greatest of all time at light heavyweight. So maybe there's an argument there where it's a toss-up between DC and but like, look at what John Jones is doing for the sport now. He's doing nothing. He's only a fighter.
He's doing seminars and he's showing up to Mike Perry's Dirty Boxing because he's part promoter, owner, whatever he is for that.
Constant wrestling videos with kids. Taking care of,
Daniel's been here in Philadelphia at Eddie Alvarez's new gym that they teamed up with at NPR, like right in Newtown, and they've had Daniel Cormier there. He I think Frankie Edgar shows up as a you know, sometime coach there. They just did a seminar with Corey Sandhagen, I think, last weekend. So, I mean, you have these guys that, as you're saying, they give back. That's important.
That is important. And it's like, what are we looking at when we're looking at the Mount Rushmore? Literally Mount Rushmore, the presidents, the guys that have done something to build this country.
Founding fathers.
Fathers have built this country so that we can all be in the greatest country in the world. You know what I'm saying? So I love John Jones. I do think he's the greatest of all time. I don't know that I would put him on the Mount Rushmore of MMA.
Well, here's mine for you, right? I totally agree with you, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. A guy that no one talks about him from the early age is, you know, I know he's going through his personal stuff right now and all that stuff, is BJ Penn. BJ Penn was absolutely amazing for the lighter fighters.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva was an absolute, you know, you could put him up there in like Bruce Lee level. He was just amazing to watch for the longest time. And, you know, he did have some stinkers in there where times he didn't show up, but the guy was ultimately entertaining. He's the consummate father figure in his kid's life. You know, probably one of the nicest, unassuming guys outside of the cage. Inside of it, he was an absolute terror. I have to have him on there. And, you know, as much as I hated it at the time, you have to put GSP on there. You have to. I love John. I'm going to keep him off the list, but not because of that. I just think it's so hard. Like when we're even saying the Mount, like there's still like 4 more guys I can mention. Like, we could talk, as your Daniel Cormier. There's so many different other different guys that we can mention. I don't like to go that line of the influencer things that you help. Everyone likes to throw Conor McGregor. Oh, well, he was a 2-weight champion, but was he? Like he helped grow the sport internationally, but he sullied the end of his career, and I don't think we're ever going to see him fight again. I already said it when he broke his leg against Dustin that it was over. My son still thinks he fights. Everyone's still like, because he's involved with big. I don't think he ever does it. I mean, he may do some videos of him training, doing stuff with his kids and stuff like that, but I don't think we would ever see him going through a fight camp doing. The money ruined him. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah,
when you make that much money, all right. To that same effect, what happened to Khabib once he got paid and got the money? What happened? Oh, he retired.
Yeah,
he retired with too many question marks, and that everyone's like, "Why don't you put Khabib on there?" I'm like, for that exact reason. He was injured too much. He didn't fight the best at his time throughout the way. Like that's the one thing I'll give John. He killed a murderer's row of the best light heavyweights. A murderer's row. His kill list is disgusting.
Yeah, and that's the thing is again, I always look at the overall of the what did they when did they get that GOAT status, and then what did they do after?
Again, that's why I say no. People disrespect BJ so much. He's my lightweight king. He is. I love him.
I always loved seeing BJ fight. I just got so upset when he came back and fought and lost so many times. I remember when he fought Ryan Hall, and I just remember thinking like, man, this is not great. And then it goes exactly how we all thought it would. He gets leg locked, he gets heel hooked in the fight, and then his personal life, that sucks.
Listen, man, all the prayers to him, man. He's going through something right now.
Goes well. I think he just got arrested like the 3rd time in a row.
Fourth. He broke the restraining orders.
Yeah,
so he got arrested for a 4th time.
This with Conor McGregor, if he's at BKFC Texas in Dallas next week, once I win my fight, I will look at him and be like, "Yo, you're the Irishman. I'm the American Irishman. What's up, dude? Let's do 165. Let's do 160." Hey,
listen, man, there's a long list of that. Jeremy Stevens has been calling out. Michael Chandler's still wants his fight, man.
Just from having the fight planned, the amount of money you'll make in sponsor. Hey, I'm going to fight Conor McGregor. Let me have $7,000 for this fight camp, and dudes are going to be like, "Let's do it, let's go." So everyone's got to. If you're smart, you call out Conor McGregor after your fight, especially if you can get him to bump some gums with you. That's the best.
I mean, Mike Perry still thinks it's going to happen. I don't think I don't think Conor ever does it.
When Conor did what he did, it's because he was hungry. That man's not hungry anymore. He doesn't need to eat.
No, he's riding around on a yacht, man. He don't have an actual address. He has a yacht. He has the SS McGregor.
Dude, yeah, he's good. So yeah, man. I honestly, there's a lot of guys that could go on just the combat sports. Mount Rushmore. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. Boaca. Yeah, there's
boxing's even harder. Like I was just as we were talking before, and I got to pull it up and give the shout out to our recent inductments into the Hall of Fame: Michael Nunn, Manny Pacquiao, and the past Manian Devil himself, Vinny Panzianza. Those are guys like how many different weight classes? Bernard Hopkins. Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield's fights with George Foreman and obviously the Mike Tyson fight. Listen, his battles with George Foreman, watching that on HBO, Michael Buffer and all that, that just grew me as a combat sports fan. It's what makes you fall in love with the sport where Evander Holyfield's hitting freaking George Foreman with everything, including the kitchen sink, and George Foreman just keeps coming at him. And it's like then you hear the stories after the fact where Evander didn't, he was lost. He didn't know what to do. Like, what else do I have to do? And there's nothing you can do. So it's one of these things, man, where when we're talking about that, like, it's so hard to just say Mount Rushmore, because there's more to that. There's so many weight classes, eras. It's so hard, man, because you feel like you're disrespecting somebody by keeping them off it.
Well, and then you almost want to do, hey, let's just do Mount Rushmore per weight class. and then we
I
got
even
how
sit
many?
there and say, like, Rose
7 or 8,
Namajunas
7
has
or
fought
8
her
for
way on there too.
MMA. You got 7
Knocking
or
out
8 for
Joanna
boxing. You got
Jędrzejczyk,
like
and then
30.
coming back and knocking out the Korean girl as well. Like, yo, Rose Namajunas' road to being UFC champion is the most unpredictable. No one could have ever said that girl's going to be a world champion when she was either in Invicta or in Tougher. She was just someone who was just consistently learning the game and made the best of her opportunities, and then losing the title to someone like Carla Esparza. I mean, that's just the craziness of how combat sports is. Literally, styles makes fights, and sometimes someone has the perfect style for that athlete, and that's just the way it goes.
Man, and honestly, like with MMA too, losses could just be a bad night. You just might have. You could have woken up in the morning and been like, man, my neck feels a little bit weird. Let's go do this fight. And then you have a bad performance in the fight, and the fight doesn't go your way. So there's so many factors where, like, look, even like we said before, Amanda Nunes, like, no one ever thought she would lose, and she ended up having a bad night. Look at Valentina Shevchenko, also on the women's Mount Rushmore. She's
the only one that's got 9 defenses.
Yeah, and it's like, but she had a night where she lost a scramble for 1 second. She got her face cranked off of her neck, and that's the way it happens. And so, MMA. I used to tell the young fighters. I still tell them, MMA is like a sweet, sweet lady when you win. She takes care of you. You wake up in the morning and breakfast is made. But she's a cruel, cruel mistress when you lose. She'll put your business on blast. Everyone will doubt you at that point. So it's one of those things, man. You either get that sweet lady or you get that cruel mistress with MMA, with combat sports. Fighting is
obviously the last one.
Such a pure sport.
So the last one before we get ready to wrap this up, I didn't even realize almost fucking 2 hours of this shit. Obviously, gonna bring it up, man. Big night coming up, 21st. They're in Texas. Obviously we can't talk about your opponent, but what does this mean to you? Obviously, you're the guy from Texas. You're the local guy. You've already talked about the things that you're hyped about. Can't wait to meet Andre Arlovsky. Jessica I is going to be there. She made her debut in the UFC in Texas. She's making her debut for BKFC in Texas. There's all kinds of different storylines surrounding BKFC 76. What's the picture you want painted when everything's said and done, and the 21st is in the books?
Man, I just want people to remember my fight. Honestly, that's one of those things where sometimes two guys will fight, the next fight starts, and then that fight ends, and the next fight starts, and they're like, "What happened with the Heffernan fight?" And people are just like, I don't remember, man. Either this guy won, this guy lost, but I don't remember how it went. I just want people to remember that Jake Heffernan was on the first Texas card for BKFC. And I want people to just be able to look back and be like, the first round was this, and the second round was this, and he hit him with a right, and he hit him with a left of the body, and I just want people to stand up from their seats and be screaming, spilling their beer on the guy in front of them. I just want a memorable fight. I want, and then beyond anything else is I want people to understand, like, just because I close one door on combat sports doesn't mean that I don't, have other opportunities in front of me. We get this fight done. We have a good time doing it. The biggest thing that's important is to go out there and have fun. We do this because it's fun. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be worth doing if it wasn't enjoyable, and it's so enjoyable to do. So I really I want people to see the smile on my face as long as my teeth are still in at the end of the match. And I'm going to be, I said it before, I'm going to be covered in my blood. I'm going to be covered in his blood, but I'm going to have my hand raised at the end. And I just want people to remember not only my fight but my name, and really make a staple for myself in the BKFC. And then, hey man, come out unscathed and then rebook another fight as soon as possible. I know that they have a plan to do another Texas card, so maybe get on that. Be in the first 2 Texas cards, and then
There you go.
get some things handled. Maybe get a Dubai fight, and maybe go to Italy.
So I guess
Start
that's your
fighting.
bucket list for international fights.
I mean, it's not my list, but the one thing I always wanted to do was travel the world fighting. That's, I've traveled the country. I've gone to other states and fought, and it's so enjoyable to just go to a place, experience the people, and experience the crowd, and get to fight in front of people that you don't know so well. And I've always wanted to experience that on the world level, is to go to other countries and fight. So wherever BKFC ends up, I would love to get a phone call to be able for them to say, hey, you had an exciting fight. We want to put you in this country to, go enjoy the country for the week, and then come and beat the tar out of somebody for 10 minutes. And, that's what I've always dreamed of. So I'm still chasing that dream. Maybe one day the UFC BJJ hits me up and I get to do that, and we go to other countries there. So again, I've closed the door on MMA. I'm happy with what I did with it. I have no regrets, and I'm ready for the next opportunity. So, again, I'm hoping that when it's all said and done, that the paychecks are signed and the stitches are put in, that people remember my name. They remember my fight.
That's all you want at the end of the day, brother, and I can't blame you for that. As we wrap this one up, what I typically do is kind of throw the microphone over to you, Jake. Anyone you would like to thank, training partners, teammates, shoot out your social media sites, any sponsors you might have, any last words or parting shots for our listeners. The time is yours, my friend.
Man, I just really appreciate Ricky Tercios, Alex Morano, Matthew Wald, my teammates and my coaches. They've really, they're more excited. Alex Morano has been the most excited person about this fight, so I can't thank him enough. I've been under his tutelage from the very day one. He's been helping me out, so I really appreciate him. Ricky Tercios has been my main coach, my pad holder, my boxing coach for this entire camp. Ultimate Fighter champ, being in your corner is something that's really, really important to me. Matthew Wald for taking me from a grappler in MMA to a striker in boxing has been, a feat for him. So I appreciate him. And then beyond that, I got my sponsors. I'm wearing my walkout shirt right now. So we got Copendero, Woodlands MMA is the gym that I train at. I'll turn around and let you guys see it. We're here. We got all of the different sponsors right here. Vinnie Vincent Real Estate. We got, Armored Realty Group. We got so many different sponsors, and without them, we can't do this. Without the extra support, without, being able to take off of work, maybe move around some private lessons and do everything so that I can pursue, my overall dream. The sponsorships really matter. So, I appreciate them so much. You guys go to my social media, Jake GW on Instagram. I list all my sponsors there. Look up their businesses, and hit them up. Do what you can with that. And again, like at the end of the day, this is a sport to entertain the fans, and I hope that I do so. So, beyond anything else, thanking the fans is, I think, one of the most important things. So, everybody out there, man, I can't wait to put a show on for you.
I think we're all going to be looking forward to this weekend. Like I said, BKFC is doing it big there in Texas. So, guys, if you haven't got tickets, make sure you go reach out to one of the fighters so you can save a little bit of money off of those stub sites and things of that nature. Because as we were already talking about, it's rough out there.
Yeah.
Jake, appreciate the time this evening, my friend. Best of skill to you, man. Whoever it happens to be, the unfortunate soul that's across the ring for you, and you're able to kind of accomplish these goals and dreams you have instilled for yourself. Hopefully, we can do it again here real soon here on the South Florida Tribune and here on the Real and the Rare. Enjoy your evening, and we'll be in touch, my friend.
I appreciate you, man. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. You too, my friend. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, everyone. That was Jake Heffernan. As we're in the last few minutes here, great time, great conversations. Make sure you guys are checking out BKFC 76 there in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Steve. This was another episode of The Real and the Rare. I will catch you guys on the rebound. I'll be on multiple times this week, and we got a fun interview with Irving Fryer Wednesday afternoon with Ben Troop and the fan in the end. So keep it locked in here, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace out, guys.